now listening to Wrestle Report Australia.
You're here. I'm here. Let's do this!
What's up, everyone? I'm Mike from Wrestle Report Australia, and instead of a Smackdown Live podcast this week, I thought we'd deliver you something a little different. You've already seen my face in pictures, but now you get the video package. This is going to be our first video recap of Smackdown Live. So without further ado, let's get to it. We start Smackdown this week with a video package of Daniel Bryan, because before Smackdown went on the air, it was brought to us earlier in the day that he is finally cleared for in-ring competition once again with the WWE. So we got a little recap of how his career was towards the end, how he retired, and the achievements that he had, and just hyping the fact that he's being cleared, which is always a good thing to see. And then naturally, he starts off SmackDown this week. SmackDown Live general manager has returned, and he immediately addresses what happened with Shane McMahon last week and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, saying, yes, I will deliver a verdict or blah, blah, blah on what will happen, but they're not here yet. So let's talk about something else. And then he goes on to talk about himself, which is very deserving. We've all wanted Daniel Bryan back in the ring, competing again, especially under the WWE banner. I mean, it'd be great to see him go to the Indies, but he belongs on the major stage. And it's good to see that they finally cleared him and brought him back. So he had a big speech about the road that it took to get there. He thanked Brie specifically, and so did the crowd with "Thank you, Brie" chants, because she's the one that gave him the main drive to keep fighting and push for his dreams and fight for his dreams to get back to the WWE. So welcome back, Daniel Bryan. That's always a good thing when we see someone who we thought was done, who we know and love, come back from something supposedly career-ending. He is one of the triumphs in WWE, and that's something to be proud of. He doesn't know, well, he says he doesn't know where or when he will return to in-ring action, but we can only assume that it will be at WrestleMania. But that was our first opening segment for SmackDown this week. We come back from commercial to Daniel Bryan walking backstage, being greeted by Charles Robbo, Little H, and he's congratulating him on his in-ring return. And then, out of nowhere, Dolph Ziggler comes walking into frame and also congratulates him on his in-ring return. He says he wants to be the first to let him know that he cannot wait to beat him. Daniel Bryan has a little smirk on his face and says, well, you can certainly try. And Dolph does his little and walks away. And that could potentially lead into a feud further on down the road, which would be interesting to see. Dolph Ziggler definitely needs someone of Daniel Bryan's caliber to work with to elevate him at the moment, and it would be a good talent for Daniel Bryan to work with as a comeback. So that could lead somewhere. It might not. Might just be a moment in passing just for a filler backstage segment, but I'm sure we'll eventually find out. We then lead into our first match of this week's SmackDown Live, and that is Shinsuke Nakamura versus Rusev Day. That's right. Another match between Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev. We have seen it about 3 times now, so there's nothing really new to comment on. It wasn't a bad match, but it's something that we have seen a lot of recently. Shinsuke, naturally the winner, because they're going to make him look strong. AJ Styles was ringside, which was very similar to last week, where Shinsuke was ringside for AJ versus Rusev. And also very similar to last week, after the win, Aiden English comes in to help Rusev beat down on Shinsuke, and AJ watches it for a sec and looks like he's going to come in and help just like Shinsuke did, but instead of coming in to make the save, Shinsuke actually had it all under control and ended up taking out both Aiden English and Rusev, making him look very strong and also adding fuel to the fire that AJ is actually injured because they are keeping him from in-ring competition or action whatsoever. The backstage reports do say that he should be good to go for his dream match with Shinsuke Nakamura at WrestleMania, but there is no word on whether he will be performing at any live events or be in any action on SmackDown tapings before WrestleMania. So we'll see what happens there. But that was a decent opening match to start SmackDown this week. We then lead into a video package for Asuka, basically just documenting her career and the events that have led to her challenging Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Live Women's Championship at WrestleMania. That is also what some people would call a dream match, because Charlotte is the most legitimate threat to Asuka's streak, and that is a match that everybody has been looking forward to seeing for a very long time. And that led us into a backstage segment of Charlotte watching the video package and Natalya interrupting her, saying that she's better than both of them, and the only reason Asuka still has a streak is because she hasn't beaten Natalya, hasn't faced Natalya. And then Natalya says that Asuka stole her thunder and it should be her challenging Charlotte at WrestleMania for the title. So Charlotte says, you can't challenge me then, but you can challenge me now. And that obviously sets up a match for later tonight between Charlotte and Natalya. And then we also have another backstage segment with AJ walking and Shinsuke pulling him aside and saying he didn't need his help. AJ says he knows, he was there, he saw it. And he goes to walk away. Shinsuke says, there's one more thing. AJ cuts him off and says, I already know. It's that you're going to beat me at WrestleMania, right? Shinsuke tells him to have a bit more confidence. But yes, that's the fact. And he will beat him with a knee to face. That is obviously his new catchphrase, I would guess. We will see a t-shirt with knee to face coming out very soon. But yeah, there's a couple of little backstage filler segments that lead us into our next piece of action. The next match for SmackDown Live, there was only about 4 matches this week. So the second match is Baron Corbin versus Ty Dillinger. I wasn't very happy with this match at all. Ty Dillinger got a jobber entrance. We didn't even see him come out. And unfortunately, his ring gear is so bland that on first glance, before the commentary team even told me who it was, I thought it was a jobber. And then I saw the 10 on the back of his scundies, and there it was. Ty Dillinger. Someone that had so much potential when he came to the main roster. He had so much hype, and now we don't even get to see him come out on the main roster. This match was basically a jobber match to make Baron Corbin look strong. Nothing of significance really happened other than the fact that Ty botched the ending, or Baron botched the ending. They both botched. There was a botch. That's all I can say. There was a botch. Ty Dillinger jumped off the top rope. It looked like they were trying to go for a good spot where Baron caught him and all in one motion delivered the end of days. Unfortunately, that did not happen. They tried to play it off and Baron chucked him out of the ring, beat him up for a second, chucked him back inside and delivered the end of days for the victory. And that was it. Very short work of Ty Dillinger, who only a few months, or not a few months ago, only about a year or so ago, was having some of the hottest matches in NXT. So it's a shame to see this talent being used the way it is, but I'm only hoping that it is leading somewhere for Baron Corbin and not just another blasé performance in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. We then have the match that was set up earlier on in the show, Charlotte Flair versus Natalya. Bit of a swerve. It is not Charlotte Flair that emerges the winner of this match. It is Natalya, due to interference by Carmella, who would appear to come down and try and cash in her Money in the Bank. Failed once again, and the interference allowed Natalya to get the roll-up for the victory. I'm not too happy with that. You're supposed to make your champion look strong heading into such a big match at WrestleMania, but it looks like they're trying to hype the fact that Carmella may cash in at WrestleMania, because I believe that is 2 failed cash-in attempts at the moment so far. We'll see what happens in the next coming weeks going up to WrestleMania, but I'm not a big fan of that finish. Charlotte Flair should have come out on top of that, but hey, it's another win in the column for Natalya, and I'm sure she's happy about that. We then lead into another very predictable match. There is a brief promo cut by the Usos in the ring, saying that Jay is still not cleared to compete due to the beating that they suffered by the Bludgeon Brothers at Fastlane, but Jimmy is here, ready to compete, and he wants one of the Bludgeon Brothers, so he goes one-on-one with Luke Harper. Of course, Luke Harper came out on top because the Bludgeon Brothers are just demolishing everything, but thankfully they did not make Jimmy look weak. He had some good spots, even though we all knew what was going to happen. Nothing really significant happened. There's no true idea of what's going to happen with the SmackDown Tag Team title picture at WrestleMania yet, but I'm sure we'll get some more news on that in the next few weeks. We then have Jinder Mahal in the ring with Sunil Singh, obviously giving him his little introduction. Jinder's just there to say a couple things, like everyone here is a hypocrite, and that he doesn't have to be here. He could be the biggest star in Bollywood, apparently. But instead, he's the one that brought glory back to the WWE Championship, and he still gets disrespected, and he deserves respect. He's then interrupted by Bobby Roode, who comes out and says the only thing that he deserves is for Bobby Roode to beat him in the middle of the ring on the grandest stage of them all and reclaim his United States Championship. And then he's interrupted by none other than the United States Champion himself, Randy Orton, who comes out and tells Jinder to shut the hell up. And he says the reason that these people don't respect you is because without the help of your little stooge, you suck. And everyone cheered because it's true. It's not true. Jinder's growing well as a talent, but it was a funny line and the crowd were behind it. They all have a little altercation. Jinder gets sent out, and then there's a little spot where both Bobby and Randy go for their finishes on each other. They both counter it, and it's a cool little face-off between the three of them. So that's a cool build-up, I suppose, leading into what is now officially yet another triple threat match at WrestleMania for the United States Championship. So we'll see what happens with these three in the next coming weeks, but I'm intrigued, people. Are you? And that brings us to the final segment of this week's edition of SmackDown Live, which is Daniel Bryan addressing Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens about what happened with Shane McMahon last week. They come down and say, look, we might have got a little carried away. Daniel Bryan says it was a bit more than that. You attacked your boss even after he was giving you everything that you wanted. He was giving you a match at WrestleMania, something that most people don't get, and he was leaving. So there was no real reason to attack your boss, yet they did it anyway, which ultimately meant that Daniel Bryan had to fire them. He then wished them the best. He said that he himself had been fired from this company twice before, and he has come back bigger and stronger than ever. So it doesn't mean that they're gone forever. It just means that they're gone for now. And he shook their hand and wished them the best, and then they attacked him. Much like the attack last week with Shane McMahon. It was a bit of a beatdown, and then Kevin held Daniel in place. Actually, no. Before that happened, it was a bit of a beatdown. And then something extraordinary happened. Daniel Bryan came back because he can. That's right. He can. He had the crowd on their feet. He was delivering some of his trademark moves, running through Kevin and running through Sami on the turnbuckles. Delivered some yes kicks, but ultimately the numbers game got too much. And then, much like last week's beatdown to Shane, Kevin held Daniel in place for Sami to deliver the haluva kick, and just when you thought it was going to be the pop-up powerbomb, instead it was the powerbomb on the apron, a much bigger spot, especially for someone that is taking their first bumps in quite some time, even though we know that Daniel Bryan has been training outside of WWE and keeping up with his fitness and everything like that is still a big bump to take on your first time back, really. So that was interesting to see. I didn't expect it, but the crowd really were behind this segment, and they really were not behind Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, because even after the beatdown, they were chanting, "You're still fired," like it meant nothing. And this is most likely setting up the tag team match, what I can only see as a tag team match between Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn at WrestleMania. So that is going to be interesting to see how it unfolds in the next few weeks before WrestleMania. But I believe that was a very good way to close out the show. And next week, I'm sure we'll, even though they're fired, I have a feeling that we haven't seen the last of Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. And there you have it, folks. That has been our first ever video recap of WWE programming. Our first ever video recap of SmackDown Live. It was done because some events arose and we were not able to do the podcast that was promised, but we always like to deliver for our fans because this is the only place to go to get these pods and recaps now. So, as always, I am Mike. I am not joined by my colleague Lan, but a big shout out to you, my friend. I'll be seeing you next week for our Raw review. And I hope to be seeing all of you next week for our Raw review. If you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button. This has been Wrestle Report Australia, and it's the only place to go for the newest team to deliver you all the news in the wrestling world and the fight game. I'm Mike, and until next time,